Hi everybody, it's Crystal. So today I have a stitch tutorial for you. Today I'll be showing you how to crochet the Lotus stitch. Now, it is very beautiful. And I know it looks intimidating. It is not. It is, I promise, it's so easy. It's a 1 row repeat and looks the same on both sides. I know I did use a busy yarn, but this is a type of stitch I do believe can pull off a busy yarn. And a solid yarn, and whatever yarn that you want to use. Isn't that pretty? So if you know how to single crochet and chain, I'll show you how to do these puffs. They're super easy, and that's all there is to it. That's it. It's like I said, 1 row repeat, looking the same on both sides, looking magnificent in a variegated, magnificent in a solid. And any yarn you want to use, it's going to look amazing. You can make anything that you could ever want to make with it. You got it, all right? Let's do it. I'm going to show you how to do it. The Lotus stitch. Let's get started on it. The yarn that I use for this particular tutorial, remember this is a stitch tutorial, so I'm just showing you how to make the stitch. What you make with it is anything that your mind wants to make with it. It would be great for anything. But I'm using, this is from Ice Yarns. It's called Ice Yarns Picasso Rainbow. It's a thinner 4-weight, I think. Some type of acrylic polyester yarn or something. And then for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to be using a size H, which is a 5mm crochet hook. Now remember, you use any yarn and any hook that you want, depending on what you're making with the stitch, all right? Because I'm just going to show you how to make this beautiful stitch. And from there, it's on you. And you show me what you make. I'd love to see it on my Facebook page, all right? There's always links to that below in the description box. Let's do it. All right, so the Lotus stitch is worked in a multiple of 6 plus 5, which means that your beginning chain needs to be evenly divisible by 6. So whatever you're making with this, whether it be a blanket or a top or a bag, whatever, you make your chain as long as you need it to be in 6s. So like 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, chains in 6s. And then once you get to your desired length, you will need to add 5 more to your chain. All right, so 6 plus 5. Now, the Lotus stitch, I'm going to work it on a foundation row of single crochet, because if you don't, it tends to gap out your bottom chain. I don't like gaps. If I can do something to get rid of them, I will. So this first row that we're going to do is going to be a foundation row of single crochet. So it won't count as row 1. It's just going to count as the foundation row. So once you get your multiple of 6 plus 5, we're going to do a single crochet in the second stitch from the hook. So we don't count the one that's on our hook. So this would be number 1, and here's number 2. Go into that second stitch and single crochet. And now we're going to work across, and we're going to put 1 single crochet in every stitch for the length of our chain. Just like this. So I'm going to continue on for my foundation row of putting 1 single crochet in every stitch, and I will meet back up with you when I make it to the end of the row. All right, so once you make it to the end of your foundation row, you'll have 1 less single crochet than you did the number of chains that you had. Just 1 less, all right? So now we're going to go ahead and begin row 1 of the Lotus stitch. So we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch, doesn't count as anything. So we're going to go ahead and single crochet right there back into that very first stitch. Just like that. Now we're going to start the repeat of the pattern. So we are going to skip 2 stitches and work a Lotus stitch into the next. Or I guess a Lotus stitch is, it's kind of it's just like 3 puffs with chains in between them. Super easy to do it. You got this, all right? So let's go ahead and skip 2. So we're going to do skip, skip in the next. Let's do a puff stitch. So we're going to yarn over. And again, skip your 2, skip, skip, go into the next, and draw up a loop. You want to do that 3 times. So that would be number 1, and you can see that we have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over, go into the same stitch, draw up a loop. That's 2 times, and we now have 5 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and go into the same stitch, draw up a loop, and we have 7 loops on our hook now. So that was 3 times we did that. Now we want to yarn over and go through the first 6 loops on our hook. So yarn over and go through 6, and that will leave 2 left on your hook. Yarn over and go through the remaining 2. And that is how the puff stitch is done for this pattern. So now we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and we're going to put another puff in the same exact stitch. So we're going to yarn over, go into that same stitch, draw up a loop, and we want to do that 3 times. So that was 1. Yarn over, go into the same stitch. That's 2. Again, we're going to yarn over and go into the same stitch. That makes 3. So that was 3 times, and you should have 7 loops. You want to yarn over and go through the first 6, all of them but 1. And that will leave 2 loops remain. Yarn over and go through the remaining 2. And there is another puff. And we're going to chain 2 again. And we're going to put 1 more puff into that same spot. So we're going to yarn over, go back into the same spot, draw up a loop. You want to do that 3 times. So that was 1. Yarn over, going into the same spot again, draw up, that's 2 times. 1 more time, yarn over, same spot, draw up, that's 3 times. 7 loops, you want to go through, yarn over and go through 6, so all of them but 1, like that, and that'll leave 2 loops that remain. Yarn over and go through the remaining 2, and that is the, well, the lotus, I guess it's the lotus, it's not really a lotus stitch, but we'll just call it the lotus stitch since this is the lotus stitch. This is the puff part of the lotus stitch, all right? It's a puff, chain 2, puff, chain 2, puff, all into the same stitch. Okay, and now we are going to skip 2 stitches again. Skip, skip, and single crochet into the next. And then we're going to repeat what we did. Skip 2, skip, skip, and we're going to make this puff, whole puff thing again. All right, so skip, skip in the next. Let's make a puff. So remember, we got to yarn over, go into the stitch, draw up a loop 3 times. That's 1. There's 2. That's 3. You'll have 7 loops. You want to yarn over and go through 6. So all of them but 1. That'll leave you 2 loops. Yarn over and go through the remaining 2. So there's 1 puff done. Chain 2 after that puff. Let's go and do another puff into the same spot. Yarn over, go into the same spot, draw up a loop. You want to do that 3 times. So that would be number 1, 2, 1 more time. That's 3, 7 loops. Yarn over and go through the first 6, so all of them but 1, and that'll leave you with 2. Yarn over and go through the remaining 2. So there's your second puff. Chain 2. And we got to go back in and put 1 more puff into the same spot. Yarn over and go through all of them but 1, and then yarn over and go through the remaining 2, and there it is again. And then we're going to skip 2, so skip, skip, and single crochet into the next, and that is the repeat of the row. We'll do it again. We're going to skip 2, skip, skip, and we're going to do our puff stitch into the next. So we're going to yarn over, skip, skip in the next, and do a puff. Yarn over and go through all but 1, and then the remaining 2, and then we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to go back in and do another puff into the same spot. yarn over and go through all but one, and then the remaining, yarn over and go through the remaining two, chain two, and then one more puff into the same stitch. Yarn over, go through all but one, and then the remaining two, and there is your puff stitch again. And one more time, we're going to skip two, skip, skip, and single crochet into the next. So we're going to repeat this pattern until we get near the end of our row. So we'll skip two, skip, skip, and do our puff section, and then skip two and single crochet, and repeat that until we get near the end to your final single crochet. All right, so I'm coming to the end, and I just did a single crochet, and I have 3 stitches that remain. We're going to skip 2, and we're going to end by doing like a half of one of these puffs. So you skip your 2, and then we're going to yarn over and go into the last stitch, and we're going to work 1 puff into it. Now we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to go back in and work 1 more puff. Just like that, and that will end row 2. All right, now we're going to go ahead, I'm sorry, that will end row 1. That's row 1. All right. All right, so now we're going to start row 2, and row 2 is the repeat row. It's just a 1 row repeat, and it's very, very easy to do. All right, are you ready? We're going to chain 1 and turn. So this is row 2, and it's the repeat row. It's pretty similar to what we just did, I guess. But what we're going to do now is we're going to single crochet right there into that very first stitch. Always start the row with single crochet like that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do our puff stitch, but we're going to do it in the single crochet from the previous row. So right down here, see that? This is where we need to work this puff section. So we're going to yarn over and go into that single crochet and do a puff. Just like we did before. And then we do our chain 2, go back into the same spot and do another puff. Chain 2, and one more time into the same spot, we put one more puff. Just like that. And now what we're going to do is we are going to single crochet in the middle of the middle puff of the next 3 puffs here. So right here, right on top of it, see that? We just single crochet. And that's what we're going to repeat all the way across until we get near the end. So again, we're going to do our 3 puffs right down here into the single crochet from the previous row. So there's 1 puff with the chain 2, go back in and do another puff. Like that, and then you chain 2, 1, 2, and 1 more puff down there into that same spot. Just like that, and that completes our puff. And now we're going to do a single crochet in the middle puff of the next set of 3. So right here on top of the middle puff, we just go right into it like that and single crochet. And this is what we're going to repeat all the way down until we get to the last single crochet down here. So again, we will do our puff and the single our set of puffs and our single crochet down here from the previous row. So it's a puff, chain 2, go back into the same spot and do another puff, and then we chain 2 again, and into the same spot is one more puff. Just like that. So that's our puff section. And now we are going to single crochet on top of the middle puff. That's next. So right here on top of it, just right through there, see that? And single crochet. So we're going to go ahead and repeat this pattern. This is what it starts to look like. All the way down, working the 3 puffs in the chain 2s into the single crochets, and then 1 single crochet into the top of the middle puff until we get to this last stitch down here, and I'll show you how we end row 2. Alright, I'm coming to the end of row 2, and I just did a single crochet in the top of the middle of my last section of puffs. Now to end the row, we're going to end it the same way that we ended row 1. So right here in this last stitch, we're going to do a half of one of these puffs again. So we're going to go ahead and do 1 puff into it. That, and then we're going to chain 2 and go back in and do 1 more puff. So this is how every single row ends. And that will be the end of row 2. And that is the repeat row. So every row ends with the half a puff, and it begins with a single crochet. So for row 3, I'm just going to repeat what I just did on row 2. I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. And I will be single crocheting right here into the very first stitch. And then I'll be doing my 3 puffs and chain 2s right here in the single crochet from the previous row. Remember, I'm just repeating what I did on the previous row, just a 1 row repeat. There we go. There's my 3 puffs and chain 2s. And then again, I'm going to single crochet into the top of the middle puff of the next puff stitch thing here. Just like that. And I'm just going to keep repeating this until I get to my desired size, depending on what I'm making. And single in the middle of my next puff. That's it. That's how it's done. You just keep repeating row 2. I'm on row 3 now, but I'm just repeating what we did on row 2. Back and forth, back and forth. You just keep repeating. Remember, when you get down here, you will always end, see the single crochet? You always end with a half a puff into the single crochet, and when you turn your work, you will always begin with a single crochet. So just keep repeating row 2 until you get to your desired size. Alright, and after a few rows, this is what it looks like. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful stitch. You know, I think, even though I used a busy yarn, that this stitch can pull off a busy yarn, and it can pull off a solid yarn. It's so pretty. Pretty, 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 pretty. So I hope you enjoyed my tutorial, and I hope you were able to follow along. I cannot wait to see what you make with this. I mean, the sky's the limit on something like this. And please hit that like button if you enjoyed and you were able to follow along okay. Hit that subscribe button if you like crochet tutorials and you like to talk about yarn. I like the same, and that's what I do on my channel. So I'll see you guys on my next video. All right, take care. Bye guys.